Okay.
Yeah. I told him to. We're live. I did the same thing. Oh, you can see me. Never mind.
What's that?
I said you can see me. Never mind.
Oh, I can. You look good doing it.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I got my granny blanket behind me. Glass of vino.
Yeah. What is the deal with the granny blanket?
So I touched on this at the beginning of my office hours.
Because I'm not a fan.
Well, there's a reason, and you'll be like, okay, that makes perfect sense. So for like the last couple weeks, I've just been like spontaneously breaking out into hives, like really, really aggressively, like coating my entire back, all over my arms, random. Couldn't figure it out.
That seems like the worst possible
way to start the show.
What?
Way to start the show?
No, it seems like a horrible remedy for like hives and itching and stuff. Those things.
Hold on. We're getting there. So my hypothesis to start was that I was allergic to my dog or allergic to dog. And
how long have you had these dogs?
A while.
Okay.
But this chair,
sound hypothesis.
You know, the dogs have hopped up on it. I've been coating my whatever clothes I've had and stuff. So I just assumed that it was really covered in dander. So I put a blanket over it one morning just to see maybe if having that separation between being directly on the chair or not would make a difference. And it did make a little bit of a difference. But I also think that I found out that I'm allergic to artificial sweeteners. I've cut them out of my coffee, and I was drinking, when I was sick, I drank like 20 Gatorade Zeros.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was like the brunt of it all. So I stopped doing that. I've left the blanket here. No more hives. Anyway, presented by Yahoo.
So you think it's this blanket?
Oh,
it doesn't in any way touch any part of your skin.
Yes. Well, no, not anymore. Not as much as I did, but I wanted to see if I could just write that off as an idea.
All right. Well, hey, I guess whatever works, right? Glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, you and me both. 20 Rick says, this dude Josh puts me on life tilt with all due respect.
You're not the only one, Rick.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I'm in no position to argue.
Oh, I love it. You know what I just realized? That you started the show.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's why I said brought to you by Yahoo Sports, the Hives Talk.
Yeah.
But
no, I meant
the floor is yours, man.
Usually, yeah, I forgot that I actually usually host this show.
Yeah, this one's
cool
yours.
Either one works. Welcome to the Deeper Dive. I'm Dave Loughran. That fine hivey fella right there is, well, hiveless fella.
Yes.
Formerly known as the Hive Man, is Josh Engelman, and he's filling in for Adam Scherer until he gets here.
Yeah, and this isn't just like Adam's internet not working or something. He went to go, see an apartment and hit some traffic on his way back. Yeah.
It's on Skid Row, right?
I just want to know how good the internet is wherever he's going.
Oh, it'll be terrible.
It can't be worse, can it?
I don't know. But anyway, Deeper Dive is brought to you by Yahoo.com. Lovely daily fantasy site they've got going on there. Strong operation. And as we tell you all the time, for those of you not MMEing every day, there really isn't a better site to play on right now. MMEing, mass entries. Which one is it, Josh?
I don't know.
MME, a lot of entries.
It's still weird to me that we refer to GPPs as GPPs, even though all that means is guaranteed prize pool.
Right.
Which doesn't have to be what we mean it to be, but everybody's just kind of like, yeah, that means tournament.
Right. You could guarantee one to run with 8 people in it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Hell, we've seen it happen before. Actually, I don't think we have. But let's just jump into it. We've got 7 games here for the main slate. And I'll tell you what, man. It is a fascinating day when the Baltimore Orioles have one of the highest implied totals on the slate.
Yes, that is an understatement and a half.
And when I actually like them.
When I typed it in this morning, I was like, that can't be right.
I know, But, sir, it is the truth. Your eyes did not deceive you.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Orioles going up against the Chicago White Sox and Irvin Santana have a 4.9 run total. It came down from 5, but it's still the third highest on the slate. And then on the other side of this, the White Sox going up against the left-handed John Means with a 4.7 total. That's the fifth highest. So this is actually a pretty enticing game. I have zero faith in any of these guys. And I went back and looked at some of Irvin Santana's numbers, right? He didn't throw a lot last year, hasn't all that much this year. He's got about 35 innings under his belt since the start of last season, so not a lot. But here's something I found fascinating, right? He's thrown 673 pitches over that span.
Mm-hmm.
He has 36 whiffs on 637 pitches. I'll do the math for you. It's 5%.
Not good, man.
Total. 4.4% swinging strike rate. These are really bad numbers. I mean, just dreadful. I'm serious. I'm not joking when I say this. It's a damn shame that Chris Davis isn't in the lineup, because this would have been a perfectly opportune time for him to not have to worry about his 38% K rate.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If he gets struck out by Big Irv, it might really be time to pack it in.
Yeah, well, still some pretty high projected ownership. You know, on DraftKings, these guys are not cheap, though. Like, we are Dwight Smith Jr. 4,700. But then you look on FanDuel, you got Rio Ruiz at 2,300. The guy's got the platoon advantage, batting fifth again. $9 on Yahoo. There are some good options here. I get it. It's the Orioles, and I know that some of them will have ownership. I just believe that Irvin Santana, it's not believing anything. He's really bad now, and he has also never been particularly stellar at holding runners, and Wellington Castillo's behind the plate.
Yeah, I'm with you completely here. Targeting against Irvin Santana is, I mean, I really wouldn't even care who the other team is.
Right.
He just naturally makes everyone else viable. I don't know if you've seen his steamer projections. 6.5 Ks per 9, a 3.2 walk per 9, and a 5.49 FIP. And the craziest part of this, that's only 0.11 ahead of John Means.
Wow. Whew.
This is actually like the opposite of a matchup of aces.
I feel like his 6.3 Ks per 9 is high.
Yeah. That wouldn't shock me if that ends up being a number that continues to fall. But he might not have a chance to ever show it.
Now, who do you like for Baltimore, though?
So it's different on all three sites. On Yahoo, I sort of prefer the bottom of their order. I don't really need to pay the proper rates for VR, Mancini, and Dwight Smith. Like, they'd show up in stacks, but there's plenty of quality options not at high price tags. But on FanDuel and DK, and DraftKings in particular, you know, I'm cool going 1 to 6, VR, Mancini, Smith, Nunez, Ruiz, and Wilkerson. Like, I'll scramble all of that up. I mean, Steve Wilkerson is bad. He's also a $2,100 outfielder on DraftKings, which is not typically a price tag you see.
No, especially not with the matchup being so pristine as well.
Yeah, so I like that first 6. You don't see a lot of $2,200 salaries on FanDuel being higher than they are on DK, but that's Wilkerson on FanDuel right now. I like the top of this order. It's appealing just because Irvin Santana is so bad.
No, look, I'm with you here. Like I said, Ruiz on FanDuel is 2,300, 9 on Yahoo. So even if you're not full out stacking, if you did intend on paying for like Verlander or whatever, there are ways to get cheap Baltimore bats in just to sprinkle in there. If you're not looking to load up on them, you think they're too expensive in some spots. You know, each one of these sites has some good discounts on all of them. Again, I would have liked Chris Davis, but what can you do? On the other side, though, I don't have an issue with these White Sox bats. A lot of them are expensive. I know Castillo is going to be chalk at catcher on DraftKings and Yahoo, which makes sense. But John Means is a guy who hasn't really shown us all that much. You look at his steamer projections, they're pretty bad. I think you just mentioned them. And Baltimore said this yesterday. Baltimore's bullpen's terrible, man.
It's so bad. The whole team's bad. I feel bad for Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no light at the end of the tunnel either, except for the light shining on Chris Davis's contract for the next 20 years.
What are you doing with the White Sox?
Liking them more than the Orioles. Oddly
You do
enough.
like them more than the Orioles. Okay, so in terms of prioritizing your hierarchy of stacks, where do the White Sox stand today?
So I haven't run any crutches, but just on a value perspective, using my target scores and salaries, the White Sox are my second favorite team on FanDuel and my third favorite team on DK.
Okay.
So I like the White Sox quite a bit. That's not to say that I don't like the Orioles. I'm just going to have a lot of this game.
All right. I like it. And by the way, on Yahoo, a few of these guys are way cheaper than they probably should be. On DraftKings, a lot of them are way more than they should be. For example, Lurie Garcia, he is leading off, but on DraftKings, he's 4,700.
Yeah.
I think Abreu is fine, but he's 4,800.
Yeah. $16 on Yahoo. So that's why I don't need to pay like 23 for Trey Mancini in the outfield. If I can get something like Abreu at a first base spot for a bargain.
Lurie Garcia's $13.
Right.
So there's a big disparity there. Like, no question. Did you see Wellington Castillo's price point on Yahoo?
Yeah, $7. He's like a value meal at Burger King.
He's minimum salary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as cheap as it gets. And you know what? If you said, instead I want to go with James McCann, well, you can. The problem is he's $16.
Yeah.
And, rostering two catchers isn't always the most. I guess you can't here. I forgot they didn't have like a utility.
I mean, you also shouldn't want to. Like, Wellington Castillo is a significantly better hitter. He's got more power, and he's got the more advantageous price by $9.
Right. And from the four, maybe it'd be different if McCann was batting fourth and Castillo was batting ninth.
Right.
But 4 and 6 is not that big of a difference.
Is now the time that we say, get ready for the James McCann home run?
Oh, it's coming. Certainly. Maybe 2 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. Another one, Tim Anderson, is 22 on Yahoo, so he's not cheap. But you look at FanDuel, and Anderson is DraftKings, $5,500 on DraftKings. Dude, I know he's been phenomenal, but that's an insane price point.
This is a guy with a 91 projected weighted runs created plus from Steamer, and his price is at $5,500. We're going to name a bunch of teams here. We've got 6 more games to go, so 12 more teams.
Yeah.
He's going to be more expensive than almost all of the players we mentioned.
Yep. Don't forget about the stolen base potential, but
sure,
paying the same price for Anderson, or the same price as Trout is kind of tough, and significantly more expensive than Mookie Betts is wild. And I think we can move on here, but hey, it's a great game for offense. Like I do really like it on both sides here. It's at Camden Yards, 73 degrees at first pitch. There isn't much not to like outside of some wildly high price points. That is really the one detractor.
Yeah. Well,
or deterrent.
The real thing that makes me nervous is the fact that they're both just not good offenses. And while I understand that Santana and Means are bad, also the hitting is also bad. So I'm going to load up on this because I think it's a really great spot for hitters on both sides. But I would not be shocked if they just can't piece it together because their lack of skill wins out.
Sure. But I mean, well, like Abreu's not a bad player.
No, Abreu's good.
Moncada is, I believe he's putting it together. He's a pretty good hitter. And I don't think Anderson's bad. He's just not $5,500 good.
Right.
And then Wellington Castillo, to be fair, when you get such a bad position, like he is the best catcher option today. And I don't even know if it's, well, there's a couple more we'll get to, but
I mean, for $7 on Yahoo, you're going to have a hard time finding a worse.
Yeah, I just disconnected my camera, I think.
You don't have to think. You did for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to, I kicked it on accident. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to just.
Where's your camera that you can kick it? Oh, the cord, not the camera.
Yes,
itself.
I did not drop kick the actual Logitech. No.
I was like, how did I miss that? At least it's on video.
All right, I'm going to throw to the next game and then jump behind my desk and fix this. Arizona and Pittsburgh, Jordan Lyles and Merle Kelly. Apparently his first name's actually Kenneth. It's Kenneth Merle Kenny. God, thank his parents every day, right? But I really like Jordan Lyles, and I want to get your take on this game first. I will show you my face momentarily.
Alrighty. What a great scenario we've got going on here. The deeper dive presented by Just Me.
I'm still here, baby.
I love it. Merrill Kelly is like a guy in the spot. Pittsburgh doesn't strike out all that much, so I don't anticipate getting many shares of Kelly. I thought earlier today that Jordan Lyles would be a guy that shows up for me. Welcome back, man.
Hey, guy. How you doing?
I think Jordan Lyles works as an SP2 just because the pay down options just really aren't that good. But if he's going to get a lot of ownership, I think a really natural pivot for Lyles is Kelly. It's just not that great of a spot because of Pittsburgh. I'm kind of just underwhelmed by Lyles and Kelly in general.
I think Lyles is a pretty good pitcher. So that might be where we differ.
Yeah, so does Adam. I think you're both wrong.
I don't think so. I mean, I actually talked to him about this a few days ago when Lyles was pitching. I paid really close attention to it. He would have kept going in that game. He got hurt, had bruised hand or whatever the hell it was. So he has 18 strikeouts this year, and 16 of them are swinging strikeouts. I mean, he is missing a good amount of bats. Like when you look at what he's throwing, let me pull this up here. His swinging strike rate versus lefties is almost 14%. At the top of the lineup, Ketel Marte, Eduardo Escobar, David Peralta, and then you have Walker, but no Adam Jones today. Wilmer Flores against the righty is as good as non-existent, like just not even being there.
Yeah.
Blake Swihart got scooped up. Nick Ahmed, Caleb dude, you have Blake Swihart and Caleb Joseph in the same lineup. Okay? I mean, that's incredible. You get past the first couple batters, and he's been very good against lefties. I think anything can happen. As somebody said to me yesterday when Homer Bailey got blown up, like, oh, Laffy. He's fucking Homer Bailey. He had a few good starts, but it's not a surprise to see Homer Bailey have a really bad game. Of course, it was disappointing. He was also pretty popular from everything I saw. But
not to mention, the goal is to try to be ahead of the curve and not behind it.
Exactly. Bad things happen, good pitchers. And I'm not saying he is, but good pitchers get beat up. And we've seen a lot of that this year. But listen, his changeup and his curveball have 21% and 17% whiff rates, respectively. He's at PNC Park. I just see a lot of good in this matchup. Sure, it can go bad. And to be fair, Arizona's total has actually risen, which to me is strange given the lineup that they've rolled out there. This is a bad lineup, man. 5 through 9 is Wilmer Flores, Blake Swihart, Nick Ahmed, Caleb Joseph, and Merrill Kelly.
I think you're doing, and I know why you're doing it. I think you're doing a little bit of a disservice to Wilmer Flores compared to those next three guys, but I get where you're coming from because I know how bad he is against righties.
Well, next four guys, because you have a pitcher in there as well.
Yeah, look, it's really bad. But I also think that the first, we'll say 4.5, are really good, or at least I think that Marte, Escobar, Peralta, and Walker are better than Jordan Lyles.
Hold on a second. Marte is garbage against righties, and you know it. Garbage.
Agreed.
Okay, so who else? Escobar, Peralta, and I guess I'll allow you to throw Walker in there, who, I guess.
It really is. It's still only Jordan Lyles on the opposite side here.
What?
Okay, so
I just think Jordan Lyles is better than you think he is, so I don't think we're really going to agree here. I also think he's pretty discounted too. So
it's not going to matter right now, but this would make for a really good poll question.
Yes, it would.
Just circling back to earlier.
Yeah, he's missing a lot of bats on his off speed stuff, and this isn't a lineup that really strikes the fear of God into me. So, hey, we'll see, and we'll also. You're saying though you like Merrill Kelly?
I like Merrill Kelly as a Jordan Lyles pivot if Jordan
Okay,
Lyles is continuing to get ownership.
all right.
Because I don't think that there's anything good below Eduardo Rodriguez. Like, I think all of the pitching from 9K and like below that, I think it's all really bad outside of Lyles and Kelly. And if Lyles gets owned like 4 times Kelly or whatever it was earlier this morning, then I just want to go differently in a GPP. I have no problem. Look, here's the deal. I think Jordan Lyles is the 5th best pitcher on this slate. The other 4 are all above 9K. If I were playing cash, I would have Jordan Lyles as my SP2, or at least I expect that if I couldn't get to 2 of the more expensive guys. So we're on the same page in thinking that like Lyles is a solid play here. I don't love him in large field GPPs if Kelly goes completely under owned because I don't think that they're that much different.
So what are you doing as far as hitters?
I have the Pirates ranked dead last on FanDuel. They are 2nd from the bottom on DraftKings. I have the Diamondbacks kind of in the middle of the pack on FanDuel. They are dead last on DraftKings. So on DK, the Pirates and the Diamondbacks are not teams that would be showing up regularly in my crunches. On FanDuel, I'll have a little bit of the D-backs at the top. That's basically it.
All right, I'm with you there. By the way, Christian Walker, 40% strikeout rate versus righties is one reason why I think it helps. Now,
Sure.
now I will say this much. There aren't that many strikeouts in this lineup. Like Marte, Peralta, a bunch of these guys are below 20%. You know, Adam Jones is 2 and he's out of the lineup. But Flores doesn't strike out a lot. But then you factor in Kelly, Walker, Joseph, and Swihart both around 25%. I can deal with that. But I think we can move on to Boston and Detroit.
Sure.
Eduardo Rodriguez, Tyson Ross. The second highest favorite or second biggest favorite on the slate is Rodriguez, 210 money line, 3.9 run total for Detroit. And to the contrary, you've got a monster 5.7 total for Boston against Tyson Ross. That leads the entire slate. Where do you stand on Erod here? You said outside of him or below him, you don't really see anything you love at pitcher.
I don't see anything that I like. I see Verlander, Hamels, Bueller, and Rodriguez on a very different level than Lyles / Kelly. There's a chasm between those groups for me. So I really like Erod. He grades out as my 2nd best pitcher on DraftKings. He grades out as my 2nd best pitcher on FanDuel. And surprise, surprise, he's my 2nd best pitcher on Yahoo. I love getting to Erod here. Tons of strikeouts in this Tigers lineup. I understand that it's a sea of righties, and that's really beneficial to him. I don't really care that much. I'm not worried about the Tigers. They project as a below-average offense, sub-4 implied total. I think I'm just confident in Erod here.
I mean, I like him a lot too. Yeah, it's a very appealing spot. Fenway's great for righties, but you know he's pitched there enough. And look, he's got the cutter that he can. He has the cutter that he can tail away from lefties, run in on the hands of righties, and he does it pretty well. These guys, I just don't see any of them really being a huge threat. There are strikeouts in this lineup. I mean, yeah, it's what 9 righties, right? But Erod, from a weighted on base standpoint, has always been, better against opposite-handed hitters. I think he's fine. He's a good play here. Now, also, he's going to be popular. Like, there's no question Erod's going to be popular, but it may just be one of those spots that you have to go to. He's got a very good changeup. The cutter has been used frequently this season. And I think those 2 pitches, when you're facing a 9 righty lineup, should be strong enough because both of them are good enough on their own. And I also think he's probably going to start racking up more strikeouts. He's got a massive swinging strike rate. He just hasn't put as many batters away in those 2 strike counts. I think you could see more strikeouts tonight.
I hope so. Although, to be fair, I do kind of like the Tigers on FanDuel. They're really cheap and really easy to get to.
All right,
So
yeah, I mean,
I will be on both sides of this.
I can understand it, especially when you're talking about ownership here. Look, I don't think you should let ownership dictate everything and just be like, "Oh, I like this team," even though it's a horrible spot. But with Erod, it's not like this guy's impervious to getting hit up, so,
No,
or
not at all.
touched up. I do like him though. Right now, you have him on FanDuel at 22% projected ownership. He's leapfrogged above Verlander on Yahoo. Verlander was the highest projected owned pitcher earlier in the day. Erod is at 64% now.
I get it.
Yeah, it's not all that surprising.
No.
Although, actually, you know what? I don't think Verlander's showing. It might have something to do with it. Well, at 49% on DraftKings for Verlander, 31% for Erod. I get it. I also really like Boston bats, though, and I'm not just saying that because everybody does. One thing that really stood out to me when I was writing the deep dive, doing some research into this is, Tyson Ross, his fastball is sitting at like 89 miles per hour, and he's actually upped his cutter usage and thrown less sliders, which is weird because he's always been a heavy slide, like super heavy slider guy. Neither pitch is getting tuned up that bad. The fastball is the one that he's had the most issues with, and it makes sense when you look at what's happened to the pitch. Since the start of last year, Mookie Betts and JD Martinez grade out better against fastballs than any hitters in baseball. They're 1 and 2, respectively. Xander Bogaerts was like 21st in the entire league. It's just a really good spot. If Ross is sitting 89, 90 miles per hour at Fenway Park, I just have a really tough time, ownership or not, tough time not loving this team.
Yeah, they're number 1 for me on Yahoo and DraftKings. They're 3rd for me on FanDuel, but they still have like a massive, massive ceiling.
Yeah.
I think the Phillies and the White Sox are a little bit more efficient today, but I'm going to have massive exposure to the Red Sox across Yahoo and FanDuel. And if I were playing DraftKings on the main slate, I would have a massive amount of them there.
Yeah, I mentioned Mookie and JD and Bogaerts. I love all of them. Anybody, because I'm sure there are. Anyone else you want to just specifically name here that you like more than others in this lineup? Benintendi, Moreland, Devers, anybody else?
Michael Chavis for $7 as a third baseman on Yahoo is really appealing, I think. It's the only one that like stands out as something I would want to say. I don't really have a problem with anybody in the lineup outside of Christian Vasquez. And if you're on a site with catchers, then I don't even have a problem if he's part of your stack.
All right. You want to move on?
Yeah, I don't think we have anything else to touch on here.
I think we got it because you mentioned Detroit bats as well.
Yeah. I'm just a really big Candelario fan against lefties.
Sounds good to me. New York Mets at home against the Philadelphia Phillies. The ownership on this one surprised me a lot earlier in the day, Josh. I'm assuming it's changed. Let's see. Yeah, but not a lot. And what I'm getting at here is on some of these sites, there are a few Philly bats that are projected to have very, very little ownership or lower ownership compared to other players at their position by a pretty wide margin. Maikel Franco is one of them, even though he's batting 5th here, basically garnering 0 ownership across the board. You've got McCutchen, Realmuto, Harper, Hoskins, Franco as your 1 through 5 against Jason Vargas, throwing an 85-mile-per-hour fastball this year. Relies on that changeup. So here's your totals. I'll kick it over to you. Right now, the Phillies are at 4.9. And the New York Mets against Vince Velasquez are 4.2. You know what? Before we get to bats, what is your take on Vince Velasquez on FanDuel? Just because his price is significantly cheaper there than everywhere else. Maybe Yahoo too, but not DraftKings.
I'm indifferent. He grades out really comparably to Merrill Kelly at 7,600. I would pretty much just take the guy that's lesser owned. I don't anticipate having any real ownership to either of those two guys. I expect it all to go to Verlander, Hamels, Buehler, and Erod.
The biggest thing for me is if the fastball is working for Vince, he can actually be pretty devastating. Like last game, he was touching 98 for the first time all year. But when you look at, is he missing bats on the pitch? You know, his first game of the season. Sorry, I wanted to pull this up, the raw whiff count.
No, go for it.
The first game of the season, he had 1 whiff on the fastball. Second game, he had 2. Third start, he had 2. Fourth start at Coors against the Rockies, he had 15. That's a huge number, right?
That's a real big number.
Yeah, 1, 2, 2, and 15. But the crazy thing is he's not really getting any whiffs on any of his other pitches, not significantly. So if he's, hitting 98 plus, and he was doing that in the later innings, and he's missing bats and climbing the ladder with that four-seamer, Velasquez can actually be very effective. But when he isn't, there's a lot to worry about, and that's when you get those games where he's only getting 3 or 4 strikeouts. So for me, he's just really a low ownership flyer in tournaments that if he has what he has last start, I wouldn't be surprised to see a really solid game. But neither of us can really predict whether or not he will.
Right. Guess who's here?
We're doing a 3-way show to close this out. You can't bail from the show midway, 35 minutes in.
I don't have a graphic.
Oh no!
I don't have a 3-way graphic made.
Oh, you're right. All right.
Well, he might be 25 minutes getting in here anyway.
All right. Well,
I love the top of the Phillies. McCutcheon, Real Muto, Harper, Hoskins. I absolutely love. You can add Franco into that. I love 1 through 5, and I'm going to have quite a bit of it. I don't care about Jason Vargas.
They've really struggled lately. I mean, they've been bad at the plate, no question. And I've said it. I think Gene Segura's absence really makes a difference there. But at the same time, I also think they should be higher owned than they are against Jason Vargas and a Mets bullpen that is, mainly struggled throughout the first month of the season.
Yeah, it blows my mind that they're not getting more love.
Yeah, we're on the exact same page there. That's how I felt. And I was pretty shocked by it, to be honest with you. What do you think of the Mets here against Velasquez at Citi Field?
Oh, the Mets. They don't grade out all that well for me. They're just kind of in the mix on FanDuel and DK, and Yahoo for that matter. I'll have exposure to like Conforto. Great job, Adam, by the way.
We should really just close the show out, you and me. I mean, we're
people want Adam Stakes.
What's that?
People want Adam Stakes. I'm going to be on Live Before Lock. Nobody needs to hear me say a damn word.
I get it. It's just, okay. Do I go back from the beginning of the?
No,
right, we'll keep talking until he comes in.
Yeah. No. We'll just go through the rest of it and make him give his spiel at the end.
All right. So Mets bats.
Yes, Mets bats. If I get to like one-offs for Conforto, or you can put together a decent stack with Conforto, Ramos, Dominic Smith, Todd Frazier, or something. Dom Smith is a $7 first base option on Yahoo if you want to get away from like a Abreu or something. They're there. I can't get too excited. The implied total is not that great, even though they are at home. I have respect for Velasquez, so I don't need much Mets in my life.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going there, if I'm going to go Mets, I'd rather just stack this team because I think that's what makes the most sense. When Velasquez struggles, he actually has only given up home runs to righties this year, but predominantly has been struggles with lefties. McNeil, Conforto, Cano atop that lineup. Ramos at a bad catcher position. Dom Smith, like it is a pretty stackable team. So that has me not hating them as much, but that's pretty much where I'm at here. How you doing, guy?
How's it going?
Not bad. All right, so we're just going to keep moving on, and we're going to start with the Cubs and Dodgers as you jump in and tag in for Josh here. Cole Hamels, Walker Buehler. Right now, the totals for the Cubs is 3.9. For the Dodgers is 4.2. But there are some uncharacteristically low price points on the Dodger righty bats on DraftKings, where you have Turner at 34, Hernandez, I think 39, AJ Pollock at 3,400. I mean, these guys are very cheap. And while Hamels is still a better pitcher than most on this slate, he's no stranger to solo shots from right-handed batters. I just find him to be dirt cheap. But I guess we can talk pitchers first before we get into it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the pitching goes, I would expect to get some of Bueller and Hamels just because pitching isn't that great on the slate. And if you're looking to get away from Rodriguez, those two stand out as probably the best options. But I'm not prioritizing either one just because I don't love the matchup for either one. Both teams can be tough to strike out. Both teams have good hitters. Neither pitcher is cheap. So outside of what I get is, a pivot away from Rodriguez, or just because I'm not, play 100% Rodriguez. They're not guys I'm prioritizing.
All right. So what about bats here? We'll start with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Dodgers there. I mean, it's not like it's a good matchup against Hamels. He was a lot better last year after a really bad 2017. He's been fine so far this year, but he will give up solo home runs. He will give up stolen bases at times as well. And the price points are really, really appealing. So when you're building a lineup and you have like $3,500 left, your last hitter, it's pretty tough to find more upside than you're going to get in a lot of these Dodgers bats at different positions. With Turner being cheap, like you said, with AJ Pollock, with Kike, who no longer is really a pinch hit risk either. I think that they're all pretty appealing. From a stacking standpoint, it's a little bit less appealing, even though they are really cheap. They are really a really good offense. They give you a lot of upside. You have David Freese batting third, and while he's perfectly fine against Hamels, he's a huge pinch hit risk, and so it makes it tough, from a full stack standpoint with that guy hitting third.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think ultimately, I look at guys like Hernandez, who for his entire career has hit lefties really well. In the case of Justin Turner, he couldn't hit lefties at all for his first however many years. The last couple, he's literally been one of the best against lefties in baseball, and that's not hyperbole. Turner has a 441 WOBA and a 261 ISO, 181 WRC plus across almost 350 plate appearances over the past 2+ years, I should say. So he's been great. And then AJ Pollock hits them well. Look, if all of these guys were priced above 4K, it wouldn't really be a discussion. But I think they're way too cheap and probably serve best as one-offs, but solid one-offs at that. On Yahoo, Turner's $13, Pollock is $13, and Hernandez is $17. So two of them also really nicely priced. Do you have any interest in Cubs bats here? Or is this a stay away on both sides?
Yeah, much lower on Cubs bats because the price tags aren't quite as appealing. You like Kyle Schwarber at 3,600, I think is fine, but Walker Buehler has really good stuff, and he's not so much the kind of guy like Hamels that's going to give up home runs. He's more likely to just walk you when he's not pitching well, and that's not really what I'm looking for in one-offs. It's not that valuable in tournaments, so I am more interested in the Dodgers.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Then we'll talk Houston and Minnesota. We've got Verlander on the mound for Houston. Cole Stewart on the mound for the Minnesota Twins. 3.5 total for the Twins, lowest on the slate. Shouldn't really come as a surprise to many, but I do want to know where you stand on Verlander. He's obviously going to have a ton of ownership. Again, 49% on DraftKings, 29% on FanDuel, but that is your highest projected owned pitcher, 7% above Eduardo Rodriguez. And, Estudillo's in the lineup. Kepler's in the lineup. If anybody can mow through a tough spot, it is Verlander. But his chances, the probability that he has a ceiling game here, is it high enough for you to roll him out there with frequency?
Yes, and it's not even because of the matchup or anything like that, because I do hate taking pitchers against Minnesota. They do have a lot of guys that are tough to strike out. Astudillo being in the lineup certainly doesn't help, but Verlander's just on another completely different level of pitcher than anyone on this slate, and especially so looking at DraftKings pricing, guys are priced up. I love Jordan Lyles, but outside of that, Eduardo Rodriguez is at 9K. You have Bueller, Velasquez, and Hamels at between 9 and 10K. If you're pivoting away from Verlander, you're still paying for whatever pitcher you're going to, unless you're just completely punting the position. And he clearly is just the most talented of the group. He doesn't have an issue with getting left-handed hitters to swing and miss, so that's not a problem. I still think I would just get there a lot.
You ready for a hot take? Josh and I had a long discussion about Lyles earlier in the show. You know where I stand on Lyles.
Yeah.
He said that Ketel Marte is a better hitter than Lyles as a pitcher?
No, he's not.
No, of course not. I know Josh is listening right now. So I
mean, if you were to make that argument for anyone, it would be Peralta, right?
Well, yeah. No, actually, Marte's good from the right side. He's not.
Well, yeah.
But he's pretty useless against righties. I guess I'll circle back. We have a few minutes. I'm going to do this quickly, but I'll wait till we get through our last game, and then we'll cover the ones that you weren't here for. We'll obviously do it, expediently.
Sure.
But with Houston, I'm assuming you're not on Cole Stewart.
No, there's not enough strikeout stuff there. The one thing I did point out on the show with Josh this morning is that for anyone who was in Slack when Adrian Sampson faced Houston, I did post just some StatCast data in there, which it's not the end all be all of anything. But if you search for Houston's numbers against right-handed two-seamers sinking fastballs over the last few years, it's one of the worst StatCast results I've ever gotten as far as like ISO for these guys. They all have just zero power. Like they don't elevate the ball. Stewart throws his about 45% of the time. So if you're looking for a data point to if you're on the fence and looking for a data point and want to get away from Houston, that would be my reasoning. But it's still just an offense that's much better than the pitcher that they're facing.
He's also done a very good job of limiting home runs, thanks to a sinking fastball. When you place them well, they're hard to lift. So maybe that has something to do with it. I guess we'll have to find out. But this is a Houston team that does have the second highest total here on the slate at 5.6. Carlos Correa. Well, actually, just looking down the lineup, you have Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Brantley, Correa, Reddick, Aledmus Diaz, Robinson Chirinos, and Jake Marisnick. Is there anyone that you like more here that you'd be willing to use as a one-off, even if you're not stacking the Stros?
I mean, there's nobody that I really love more than the rest. Like we know how good, Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Brantley, Correa are, but they all, if normally when I really prefer one-off, it's because of pitch type data, and they all suck against Stewart. So it's more so if Stewart's not on, I like, I would obviously like Houston, but I would like all of them. So there's no one that really stands out above the rest.
All right. I think we can move on to the last one here. Then we'll talk about the Angels and the New York Yankees. Felix Pena, CC Sabathia. Pena was someone I was actually willing to consider earlier in the day. He's always been better against right-handed hitters. He actually has decent strikeout stuff, decent swinging strike stuff against them. The one major concern that I've had here is that even in games this season where he has looked good, for which was this one? 5 starts. Trying to figure out which one wasn't the start. Because if it was the 72 pitch game against Milwaukee, I don't know if he came out of the bullpen there. He was really good, allowed one unearned run and only threw 72 pitches. I guess the only concern is what will his leash look like here? It's just not it's not really an imposing lineup for the Yankees. We don't have it yet, but I don't know. Pena at that price, if he could go deep into this game, wouldn't be the craziest idea. I'm just not sure what his leash will look like. What are you doing with Sabathia and Pena? Yankees right now have a total of 4.3, and on the other side, against Sabathia, 4.3 for the Angels at Angel Stadium.
So my first question is, I'm seeing Cam Bedrosian listed now. Is this an opener thing, or did they scratch Pena?
Oh, did I miss it? Hold on, let me take a look.
I don't know if it's just he's opening and Pena's coming in or what.
Maybe I missed it. I had him listed everywhere when I was writing today's article.
Yeah. Pena was definitely in earlier because Josh and I had talked about it.
I still have Pena. Let me look it up.
I'm trying, but we all know how well my computer works sometimes.
Who did you say that you saw?
Cam Bedrosian.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing Pena literally everywhere still.
Okay. Then in that case, I do have interest in him because it's going to be a mostly right-handed lineup for the Yankees.
Right.
From Pena's perspective, we would hope that Clint Frazier misses another game because he's far and away the best slider hitter on the Yankees, which is what Pena throws 40 to 45% of the time to right-handed hitters. If Frazier's in, you still have some upside just because the Yankees lineup is weaker than usual, and it is a good park for pitchers. If he's out, I like it even more because that's another good power hitter, or at least reasonably good power hitter in their lineup that would be missing. So if it is Pena and if Frazier's out, I like him quite a bit.
All right.
Still would happen, Jordan.
Yeah, and I'm still looking here. If okay, so now somebody's telling me that Felix Pena is going to follow him.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind
that
of
makes me less.
All right.
It makes
Yeah.
me less interested just because it's not cheap.
Now, okay, here we go. Yeah. All right. I wanted to get it not from like the sites that report on somebody else, but from the actual source,
Right.
But yep. Now it's okay. Looks like Bedrosian is opening.
Okay, so that does take some of the appeal away from Pena for me, just because it makes me less confident in how deep he goes, and it's not like he's 6K or something.
Right.
But I'm still not interested in the Yankees.
And also, I mean, this dude has struggled to get through 5 innings so often in the past. Anyway, probably going to give him 4 innings. Would be my guess. That's definitely a lot less appealing for me. I did like him today, though, assuming that he was starting. That kind of sucks. But what are you going to do? Where are you at on Sabathia?
Completely average spot. If I get some in tournaments, it's fine, but I would much rather play Jordan Lyles because I think he has a much higher ceiling. Sabathia is just not a high strikeout guy at this point in his career. We know that the Angels don't strike out a lot. Sabathia also does a very good job of preventing runs, and this is a good park to pitch in. So I think it's likely that you get something like 15, 16 fantasy points, maybe more with a win from Sabathia, but I think it's really unlikely you get like a 25 30 fantasy point game out of him. So for that reason, I still would have him behind Lyles, but at his price tag, he is kind of appealing just because he probably gets, 15 to 16, 18 points.
Do you like any hitters from this game?
Outside of Trout.
Other than Trout?
Yeah. Trout and Clint Frazier if he's in, but other than that, no.
All right. Yeah. Any interest in $2,500 Cozart on DraftKings?
Not really, unless I have to.
Yeah, man, that is pretty cheap. He's been awful. I mean, just terrible. Batting 9th. Yeah, I don't really see any reason why you'd want to go there. Okay, let's do a quick recap. Here's what I'll do. I'm not gonna I already gave my analysis here, so we'll get yours. I'll just let you know where I was at the start of it, and then let you run. White Sox, Baltimore. I actually like both stacks a lot, and especially with the bullpen for Baltimore being so dreadful, but the White Sox price points are pretty high on DraftKings. What are you doing with this one?
Really disappointed Chris Davis is not in the lineup.
Dude, I know. I said the same exact thing because Irvin can't miss bats.
Right, exactly. Steve Wilkerson at 2,100. I mean, the guy's not good, but he's 2,100 batting 6th.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Put the ball in play.
Yeah, so he's fine. I like the Baltimore stack. They're a little more expensive than I would like, though. Especially the top, VR, Mancini, Smith, Nunez. They're all really expensive. Same goes for Chicago too, though. I like the stack, but you're also just paying absolute premium prices. So not like it's a huge priority to get to these guys. I do think that $3,900 James McCann or even better $3,800 Wellington Castillo are really good plays.
All right. Pittsburgh, Arizona. The only thing I really have here is Jordan Lyles, who I like a lot against this Arizona lineup.
Me too. He's my favorite point per dollar pitcher on the slate. Arizona's lineup here, the top guys can hit, but then you get to the bottom. Blake Swihart, Ahmed, and Caleb Joseph, followed by the pitcher. That's a part of the order that Lyles should have no issue with, and he's just been really good this year. He's missing a lot of bats. I love Jordan Lyles here.
All right. Boston, Detroit, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Tyson Ross. My favorite stack, Boston against his 89-mile-per-hour fastball, a group of fastball killers. What are you doing with Rodriguez in the Boston Red Sox? And if you want to talk Detroit, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm with you on the Red Sox. It's a good stolen base spot as well. Not as good as it used to be in the past, but still a good one. Eduardo Rodriguez, it scares me because it is an entirely right-handed lineup with a 310-foot wall in left field, but he, I think, is still in a better spot than Buehler against the Cubs or Hamels against the Dodgers or Velasquez. So I will get to Rodriguez. If you wanted to leverage against him, I think Nick Castellanos is the obvious number one guy to do that with. Just a really, really good hitter, tons of power, should be able to take advantage of the green monster in left. Candelario batting leadoff at 3,400 gives you some upside as well. Not really looking to full stack the Tigers because they're just such a bad offense overall, but getting to the above average guys in this lineup makes sense from a leverage standpoint.
All right. By the way, Josh Engelman, we're going to talk. Well, actually, it should be coming from the Awesemo account. Check it out in the YouTube chat. Throwing in the Yahoo sign up link if you want to do that. Get up to $30 too in Yahoo Sports rewards points when you sign up through us using the code Awesemo. Heading over there right now, you've got $2K to first and the $10K guaranteed. They dropped it down to a $10 entry fee too. It's not 15 entry fee anymore. 10 max. You cannot enter more than 10. So those of you that enjoy hand making lineups are doing it that way. Head over to yahoo.com right now. Look at their DFS stuff. They are the sponsor of the Deeper Dive. 10K guaranteed, 2K to first, $10 entry, and a 12% management fee. Not too shabby. All right, New York Mets, Philadelphia Phillies. This is the only one we haven't gotten to yet. Go ahead, Adam.
I like Velasquez actually a little bit more now that I've seen the Mets lineup. No Brandon Nimmo is good for him. The top three, McNeil, Conforto, and Cano will give him trouble probably, and Wilson Ramos is a tough out. But Smith, Frazier, Rosario, Lagares, Vargas, he should be able to rack up strikeouts against those guys. So now that I see that, I actually like him a bit more than I did this morning.
Pete Alonso is out of the lineup too.
Yeah, okay, that's what I knew. Somebody was missing. I couldn't figure out who it was. So that makes a big difference for me. So I actually like Vasquez quite a bit more. I would say that I actually like him a little bit more than like Buehler and Hamels.
Yeah. Something I mentioned earlier to Josh was he had 15 whiffs on his fastball last game, which is insane. He had 2 and 2 and 1 in his 3 previous games. He also hit 98 on the four-seamer for the first time this season. My only thing is if the fastball is not getting what it got last time out, he doesn't really have much else to slide. His off-speeds, his secondary stuff hasn't worked well. So I feel like if Velasquez has the fastball working, 15 whiffs at Coors Field against the Rockies is damn impressive. If he can keep that going and have the same high-end velocity like he did last game, I wouldn't be surprised to see a good start from Velasquez. I just can't tell you whether he will or not.
Yeah, exactly. And the lineup being the way it is kind of just the tiebreaker for me, whereas I was going to just stay away if they were at full strength, but they're not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, use the promo code Deeper Dive to get 50% off your first month at awesemo.com, by the way. Premium subscription, everything behind the paywall, ownership projections, player projections, articles daily from myself and Adam, Josh Engelman, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, all of his rankings, projections, everything else he does there, Fantasy Cruncher add-on, the lineup builder, and content for really all of the DFS sports you can think of. You want to check it out, use the promo code Deeper Dive, one word. When you do it, you get 50% off your first month. So Deeper Dive, all one word, or check out a weekly pass. You can do that as well if you don't want to dive in. Last thing here, Adam, before we head out and turn it over to the Live Before Lock crew, let's do our top stacks. Who do you got?
Philly, Boston. Yeah. Might not stack a ton on this slate.
Well, you know what? I don't think I even asked you about the bats in that game. Do you want to touch on that? We have a minute or two.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I like Philadelphia. Vargas isn't terrible, but he's not good either. He doesn't hold runners well. He gets lit up by righties a pretty fair amount of the time. And 1 through 5 in this lineup are all good. Then you kind of get into some pretty sketchy guys. But 1 through 5 is, a bunch of good hitters. I don't love a lot of offenses on this slate, so I do like Philadelphia quite a bit. If you're looking for hitters from the Mets, those first 3 or 4 guys should be able to have success. They're reasonably priced. Conforto's a little bit expensive, but they're fine. So I am interested in bats there.
All right, how about your top stacks? We'll do this over.
Yeah, all right. Boston, Philly, I guess Houston.
All right. For me, Boston number 1. Philly number 2, and you mentioned the Dodgers are kind of tough. Hamels, even when he gives up runs, he doesn't usually just implode either. So Boston, Philly. The problem I have with the White Sox and the Orioles isn't that I don't really like both of these spots. I do. I mean, I like them a lot. But they're in some places at DraftKings, they're really expensive.
That's why I left them off. And I mean, realistically, I'll have them, I think, just because I don't like a lot of other spots and because I will have so much Jordan Lyles, I can get there. But yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't mention them when I named my stacks, because they're just really expensive.
Right. Like if you want to stack them on DraftKings, you're paying $5,500 for Tim Anderson, $5,400 for Yohan Moncada. I mean, that alone right there is wild. Then $4,800 for Abreu, and Leury Garcia's $4,700. That doesn't leave you with much.
Yeah, and if you look at the Orioles, like if you want to pay almost $5K for league average hitters, this is your team.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm assuming like Dwight Smith Jr. may be one of the guys you're referencing here.
Yeah, I'm referring to VR, Smith, Nunez. I mean, Mancini, I think is actually good. Not 5K good, but good. It's the nice thing with the Orioles is you do get the cheap. You get Wilkerson for really cheap. Rio Ruiz, I think, is actually a pretty good value play here. So they, as a stack, kind of average out to being reasonably priced. But the White Sox, outside of rostering one of Castillo or McCann at sub 4K, you're just paying through the roof for guys.
It was really one of the reasons I was hoping Pena would be starting.
Yep.
Because Pena Lyles gives you a lot more leeway there. And I mean, obviously, yes, Verlander's the best option on the slate, but there are some teams I really like, and I wouldn't have minded plugging or pairing Lyles and Pena if he was getting the start. Now, I mean, who do you really go to in the mid range if you want? I mean, Erod is 9K. I get that. That's not crazy, but still.
Right.
All right. That'll do it for us. Live Before Lock coming up next. Hit us with a thumbs up. Like the video if you appreciate the content. You want to see more of it because, as you know, it does help us out a lot, and we do greatly appreciate it. Wish you guys the best of luck tonight. Subscribe and hit that notification bell before you head out so you always know when content's going to drop next. Adam, I'll be back here. Are you going to be here tomorrow?
No, I will be in Nashville.
All right. So the Deeper Dive will be here without Adam, but it will be here. Same time as always. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. This has been the Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo.com. Live Before Lock coming up next.